Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, and welcome to today's webinar looking at 4 years of the Bi-Social Corporate Challenge Initiative, the why, what, and how of social procurement. My name's Andy Daly. I'm Head of Corporate Partnerships at Social Enterprise UK. I'll be giving you a very short overview of the Bi-Social Corporate Challenge and a snapshot of where we are 4 years in. And we'll also be hearing from 6 practitioners of social procurement. So we've got a lot to squeeze in to our hour today. Throughout the webinar, please do feel free to submit any questions you have. You need to go to the control panel and you can submit them through the question function, or you can submit through the chat. We'll keep an eye on both, but ideally through the question one. So just to explain who we are, first of all, if we can move to the next slide, Nicola. Social Enterprise UK, we're the national body for social enterprise. We believe social enterprise is the future of business and our best chance of creating a fairer world and protecting the planet. There are lots of things that we do at SEUK. One of them is we help our members and partners to do business with each other. And that led us in 2016 to launch an initiative called the Bi-Social Corporate Challenge. And if we move to the next slide, we've got just a short overview of what we're trying to achieve there. It's a simple initiative with a bold ambition. It's a group of high-profile businesses working together to collectively spend £1 billion with social enterprises through their procurement. And the idea there is if companies need to spend this money anyway on all the products and services they need, then why not spend that money with social enterprises? And in that way, we maximize the positive benefits for society. So that's what we were trying to achieve with the Bi-Social Corporate Challenge. We're 4 years in, and then if we move to the next slide, we have recently released our Year 4 Impact Report, and so we're just going to give you a snapshot of where we are 4 years in. So the first thing we want to show you, moving along, is how much has been spent by the Bi-Social Corporate Challenge partners over the 4 years, and the total is over £91 million spent with social enterprises. So we're absolutely delighted with that and all of the impact that comes along from that. Now, if we move to the next slide, we can also see that we've got now 24 high-profile companies working with us on the Bi-Social Corporate Challenge, buying from social enterprises. We began with 7 founding partners in 2016, and we're delighted that we've now got 24 working with us. So that's the demand side, and if we move to the next slide, we'll see on the supply side, we have hundreds of social enterprises. We estimate about 380 social enterprise suppliers at this moment in time are supplying into those Bi-Social Corporate Challenge partners. Now, the next slide shows us how many jobs have been created. So we estimate that over 1,200 jobs have been directly or indirectly created at social enterprises, thanks to this spend with social enterprises by the corporate challenge partners over the 4 years, which is fantastic. And very often, of course, those are jobs created for people who face barriers to the labour market. On the next slide, I only have a couple more slides. So the next slide looks at the benefits for the corporate partners of sourcing from social enterprises. So we surveyed the Bi-Social Corporate Challenge partners and asked them this question: what benefit has this had for your organization? You can see that the #1 benefit reported there is increased supply diversity. So social enterprises are helping these large businesses to build a supply chain which is more representative of the communities they operate in. Other major benefits include environmental sustainability, external recognition, so it's great for brand and reputation, and enhanced engagement within the procurement team itself. So that's just a flavour of some of the benefits for the corporate partners of working with social enterprises. And I've just got one more slide, actually 2 more, but one more which gives you, if we move to the next one, Nicola, we've got one more slide here which comes from our survey as well. Oops, we've jumped. Go back one. We've gone, yeah. Okay, so just wanted to show you that the Bi-Social Corporate Challenge partners are very positive about the social enterprises in terms of cost and in terms of the quality that they deliver. So the vast majority feel that they're cost neutral or cheaper compared with other suppliers, and all of the Bi-Social Corporate Challenge partners told us that they're delivering comparable or higher quality compared with other suppliers. So also really pleased to see that. And then my final slide, Nicola, will just show us the 24 businesses that we have on the challenge right now. So you'll see we've got a nice cross representation of the economy, lots of different industries there. We're on 24 partners. We're inviting forward-thinking businesses to join us, sign up to the corporate challenge, and we can work with you to unlock the power of your everyday business spend. So I hope that's a useful overview of what the corporate challenge is about and where we are at the 4-year mark. And at that point, if we move to the next slide, we're now going to hear from 3 of the Buy Social Corporate Challenge partners. We're going to hear from Amy, SAP, and Food Buy, and I will hand over to Nicola to lead the next part. Thank you.
Thanks, Andy. So if I could just get Emily and Kelvin and Laura to turn on their cameras for me. Okay, great. Thank you, everybody. So we're going to take it in turns to speak to each of our panelists today. And if you'd like to submit any questions to the panelists, we're going to have a Q&A section of this webinar at the end, and I'll be looking at the questions at the end for both panels together. So if you have any questions as we're going along, please do submit that. So we're going to start by first talking to Emily Davies, who's the head of social impact at Amy. So Amy joined the Buy Social Corporate Challenge in 2017. And in 2018, they were the winner of the annual UK Social Enterprise Awards, picking up the Buy Social Market Builder Award from us at SEUK. So in 2019, they published a social value supply chain charter, which included a target to allocate 5% of addressable spend to social enterprise suppliers by 2023. So first question to Emily, what prompted Amy to sign up to the Buy Social Corporate Challenge?
Sure. Hi, Nicola. Hi, everyone. Just checking you can hear me okay. Thumbs up.
Yes, good.
Yeah,
thanks.
perfect. Okay, great. So just briefly, if you don't know Amy, we deliver support services across the UK. We've got about 16,000 people, and we maintain the likes of the UK's road, rail infrastructure, keep schools safe and clean, and we manage quite a bit of the UK's defence estate as well. So when we first decided to sign up to the Buy Social Corporate Challenge, we'd already been working with a couple of social enterprises and realised and recognised it was a good thing to do, recognised it was really going to support us when it came to social value, realised that social value was an increasing focus and priority for a lot of our clients, be them local government or central government, and essentially we're keen to work with a partner that were the experts and could help us along our journey. In particular, we really wanted them to help us with that initial analysis to look at our supply chain and immediately find those opportunities to diversify some of that supply chain spend towards social enterprises. I mean, the second one for us as well was that we knew that Social Enterprise UK had some really good links and buy-in with government as well. Government's obviously one of our key clients as well. So we really thought a good collaboration, a good partnership approach was the way forward.
Great, thank you. Why did you bring in a social value chain, supply chain charter specifically, and how did you go about doing that?
Sure. So the supply chain charter echoes our social value plan across Amy. And I think probably like a number of organisations potentially on the call, a lot of our turnover goes towards our supply chain. So if we really want to make an impact when it comes to social value, we've got to work with our suppliers across the board. And rather than going to our suppliers in a sort of piecemeal approach with different agendas, actually, why not just focus on the entire social value framework, set out what our goals, what our priorities were, and then that could be used as the guidance for our commercial teams, procurement teams to have those conversations with our suppliers, and then starting to lead that into actual commitment and actual action by our suppliers as well. So it really helps sort of just set that conversation going really, but also then that's that real direction that to be a supplier of Amy, we want you to come on this journey with us, and we will recognise that, support that, and make that a priority when we're evaluating, deciding which suppliers we want to work with.
Fantastic, thank you.
Yep.
And what do you think the value is that Amy gets out of being a part of the Biosocial Corporate Challenge now? So you talked about the earlier reasons for joining, but what benefit do you get as being a part of the programme from now?
Sure. I mean, there's a whole host of reasons. There's a lot of activities that you guys put on. One of the biggest things I think for us is really is working with other organisations. So personally for me, I've really benefited for some of the relationships with a number of organisations, some of them are competitors, to really kind of work through this whole agenda together. So the whole focus on collaboration really works for me. The second is that you keep on coming up with new social enterprises that we can work with, that we may not have seen before, through the events that you've run, and keeping that pace on what's out there is always the key for us, and you have those eyes and ears on the ground all the time, so things that you can feed through is what really helps us. So yeah, being the experts, getting the heads up and working with government as well still is really relevant. So all the work and intelligence that you've sort of brought with regards to the latest PPN that you may have seen on social value for government in terms of government procurement, and working with you more broadly on social value has been a real benefit for us. So collaboration and expertise, I suppose, are the two key elements that I'd bring right now.
Thank you, Emily. And next panelist, we'd like to hear from Kelvin, who's the procurement manager at SAP. SAP have been a part of the Biosocial Corporate Challenge since April 2019. And they have recently launched a new initiative to encourage businesses to practice social procurement themselves, based off the success that Kelvin and his team have had with onboarding dozens of social enterprises in the UK within the first year of being part of the challenge. So Kelvin, I'd love to ask you, procurement has traditionally been driven by the desire to reduce risk and cost. How do social enterprises fit into that? I think you're on mute.
I said that would happen.
Yeah.
I think it's fair to say that procurement has been driven in the past by cost savings, and to some extent we've been tarnished with that, both by internal customers and the external markets. But I do think procurement's moved on over the years, and it's all about providing value. What is valuable to our business and to our customers? And this is where I see social enterprises fitting in, because value to us is the important topics that are around in the world today, such as sustainability, social value, and innovation. And you mentioned we've been working now with Social Enterprise UK for the last 18 months. So we've implemented a number of social enterprises, and these are delivered on all of those topics that I've mentioned: sustainability, social value, and innovation. And you've mentioned those earlier on in the reports that you produced. I'd like to add, though, that there's no compromise on the value that these can bring. The quality we are receiving is greater in most cases, and the cost overall, we are buying at a lower cost than we had before. So going back to what we started about with procurement and cost savings, yes, we can reduce our cost. Yes, we can produce cost savings, but there's much more value by working with social enterprises with sustainability and innovation. Nicola, there's lots of examples I can share. I know we're limited on time, but if anybody wants to contact me, my lines are open.
And when you joined the challenge in April 2019, what kind of strategy did you put in place to start your social procurement journey?
Well, it was a difficult strategy to set at the beginning because we weren't too sure where to start. And Social Enterprise did give us some, Social Enterprise UK did give us some starting points. And like many organisations, procurement doesn't have many resources, or limited resources, I should say. So we looked at it, where could we make the biggest impact in the shortest period of time with the resources we had available, and which contracts could we switch easily or which were up for renewal. SAP wanted to roll this out globally as well, so we wanted to make sure we got it right. We want to learn from our mistakes. We wanted to make sure we brought value. So we developed a strategy which was based upon 3 steps. We took a staged approach, so we did it by category, and we start, category by category. So we started with facilities, and facilities we thought was the easiest one because most of our spend was with 2 tier 1 strategic suppliers. And also we found out from talking to Social Enterprise UK that there was a high number of social enterprises in this particular area. So the next step we took was talking to our strategic 1 suppliers, and you'll hear from Laura in a moment, but Compass Food Buy was one of them. We also engaged with our facilities management supplier. Both companies were very interested in what we were trying to achieve, very supportive, and they really helped get some great results for SAP in bringing these social enterprises on board. Finally, the internal communications and events. And from my perspective, this was key to the success. Getting our employees and lines of business engaged in what we were trying to achieve, it was the most important thing. We had coffee and tea tasting sessions with our employees. So they got to engage with the social enterprises. They got to vote on their favorite teas, coffees. It was a fun experience. It wasn't such a good idea when we tried to roll it out with pest control because for some apparent reason, nobody was interested in the topic.
I do remember we had a Meet the Supplier event at PwC back in February, and we had a pest control company came along. Well, part of their offering was pest control, and a mouse popped up during the meeting.
Oh,
so it was like a perfect example. Unfortunately, they didn't have the kit with them to catch the mouse, but that was an extra feature of the meeting. So lastly, how did SAP's partnership on the corporate challenge help you take the social procurement work forward?
In many ways, but the main ones I would say are the one-to-one support we got from your team. It brought the knowledge that we didn't have to us so we could implement what we were trying to achieve. Andy, he's been on the SAP journey since day 1, and he's not helped us just with the support and the information, but he's helped us with the comms that we've been trying to get the message out to our wider business. He's even attended some of the events and supported us in those areas. He also introduced me to you, Nicola, and you've been a great support on that construction project we started just recently with our new offices in London. The connection to the high quality social enterprises. We've already mentioned that we've implemented over 20 of these now. They're all providing great products and services. They're also very nice to work with. I know we say that about most of our suppliers, but we've got genuine relationships with those companies now. We've also spoken to, I don't know how many more companies, it must be into the hundreds. And we've not been able to work with them for many different reasons, but our doors remain open and we are willing to talk to any of the social enterprise companies. And if I could just take this opportunity while I've been talking about the social enterprises, I'd just like to say a huge thank you to all of them, because they inspire me in what I'm trying to achieve, but they also inspire my colleagues as well. So a great thank you to everybody. They're doing a great job. Thank you. Finally, I think it just gives us plenty of opportunities to collaborate with other corporate partners. We've got Emily and Laura on the call. And though I don't have many discussions with Emily, I have had numerous meetings with the AMI procurement team to share knowledge and experiences. And Food Buy and Laura, we've been working together now for I don't know how many months, but Laura was very instrumental in bringing a number of social enterprises in the food and beverage sector into SAP. So there's the 3 areas: one-to-one, social enterprises, and the opportunity to partner.
Thank you, Kelvin. So our third panelist here is Laura Neville, who is the Global Responsible Sourcing Lead at Compass Group, the parent company for Foodbuy. So Laura was previously at Foodbuy as a social value lead and has now joined Compass Group in a global role where she'll be leading a programme of social enterprise activity. So Foodbuy is the first food and beverage group procurement business on the Buy Social Corporate Challenge, having signed up in September last year. And Foodbuy UK won Best Initiative to Deliver Social Value through Procurement at the CIPS Excellence in Procurement 2020 Awards. So Laura, I'd like to ask you, when Foodbuy joined the Biosocial Corporate Challenge, which was fairly recently, what was the thinking behind that decision?
Hi Nicola, thank you for having me today. When I joined Foodbuy, I introduced the idea of social procurement to the team, and my first port of call was working collaboratively with SEUK and the team. Firstly, we joined the Biosocial Corporate Challenge, which gave a real clear structure how to develop our social procurement strategy. So working with Andy and the team, attending the Meet the Supplier events, allowed our buyers to be introduced to new different social enterprises that we were currently working with. And we've had the ability to learn and work proactively with other key partners such as Kelvin at SAP. I think for Foodbuy and Compass, we see supporting social enterprise as an essential part of our future strategy, especially as the world recovers from the pandemic. So it's now more important than ever. So we're really proud to be a partner on the Biosocial Corporate Challenge.
Thank you. And what would be your top tips to any business that were trying to introduce social enterprises into their supply chain?
I'd say the most important aspect would be to gain some senior leadership buy-in, get them to endorse social procurement, get them to learn a bit more about it, and then work with your teams to educate buyers on why it's important and how it links to your wider business strategy and your purpose. And then start talking more about it internally, but then also externally. So raise some awareness across the business. Share your success stories, start collating your impact. We use LinkedIn as a great tool to develop a social media campaign. Definitely start tracking your spend and also your impact, because that's what it's all about, really.
Thanks, Laura. And how has the Biosocial Corporate Challenge helped Foodbuy get its supply chain to where it is today?
I think working with Social Enterprise UK has made it very easy for us to step into the programme and quickly understand what's happening in our supply chain, where there's gaps in various different categories, where we can effectively add some social enterprises in. We've been working and learning collaboratively with the other partners. So when I first joined, I had lots of interesting chats with Amy, PwC, SAP to understand what they're doing and how that can help us. And as you mentioned, we recently won a SIPS award for social value. So working with Social Enterprise UK has helped us develop an award-winning strategy. So watch this space for some more exciting work coming in the future, hopefully across the world.
Thank you. Thanks all three of you for that. That was really interesting. I'm sure the audience found that really interesting to hear how Biosocial Corporate Challenge has been applied at your organisations, and what it means to be a part of the challenge specifically. So we are going to move to the next half of the webinar, which is our panelists of social entrepreneurs that are working with our corporate partners. So what we'd like to do is a quick little switch over of cameras. So Kelvin, Laura, Emily, if we could say goodbye to you, and hello to Kate, Cecilia and Latoya. Okay, great.
Hello.
Hello, everyone. All right. Yes, so we wanted to also bring in some of the great social entrepreneurs that are working with the corporates. And I'm going to let them introduce themselves, as they can do a fantastic job of introducing themselves and their organisations. And we're going to follow a similar structure where I'm going to speak to one panelist at a time. And again, please do submit any questions that you have in the questions pane for both the first half and the second half. So I'd like to start by chatting to Kate. Hi, Kate.
Hi. Hi.
So could you firstly introduce yourself and just explain to the audience what what business you lead.
Yeah, sure. Hi, everybody. My name's Kate Bull, and I'm the Managing Director of Britain's Bravest Manufacturing Company, which we often call BBMC. BBMC is part of a wider charity called the Royal British Legion Industries, and that's a charity of about 100 years, so we've been around for quite a while. We are the manufacturing arm of that charity, and we turn over annually about £6 to £6.5 million. We've got 3 locations. Based in Kent is our main one. We've got one in Leatherhead and one up in Glasgow in Erskine. And we make a range of products. So we make pallets, we make road signs. For those of you who've been up and down the motorway, in particular the M20 recently, you'll have seen our massive gantry signs on there. We make signage for Network Rail. We have a print and design studio, and we also have various fulfillment arms, pick and pack arms around the country. Why do we have these industries? It is to provide employment. So we currently employ around 110 people, of which around about 80 are what we call beneficiaries. So those are veterans with a disability, or people from the wider community with a disability. So we're quite focused on, our strapline is improving lives every day, and the people that we do that for are primarily, as I said, veterans with a disability or people in the community.
Thank you. Can you tell us a bit about your track record on the Bi-Social Corporate Challenge, working with clients and from the Bi-Social Corporate Challenge and other corporate clients?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we're very lucky to have worked with a number of people on the Bi-Social. In particular, Amy and Waits have been very strong supporters of ours. To give you an example, over the last few years, we've had around about £2.5 million worth of business from Amy, and we make for them on average 20,000 road signs or rail signs a year. And we're really proud of what we do. We know that although Amy have said that they want to work with social enterprises, we still have to provide excellent value, excellent quality throughout everything, because when our signs end up on your motorway or on the road, they have to be there, they have to be CE marked, they are there to provide safety and for warnings, and therefore we're really proud of the professional job we do.
Thanks. And what is the value of large businesses? What value do they get from working with your organisation that they wouldn't get from other suppliers?
Well, we have a number of unique relationships with corporates, Amy being one of them, and a number that we haven't yet convinced to sign up to the SEUK Bi-Social Challenge. What we're able to give is this broader reach. So not only do you buy from us, but we are able to involve you in a far more in-depth way with our organisation. So whether that is product development, whether that is providing opportunities for graduates to come in and to help us with our processes, or volunteering days, we're able to provide more, because that is what we do as social enterprises. We don't just do business. We are here to convince people to actually look at the social purpose that we are trying to address and get them involved and motivated in that. And that's where we can help those large corporates when they're looking at their corporate social responsibility requirements, is to actually challenge social enterprises as how can we help them fulfill that. We also are able to act as, if you like, a critical friend, because our aim as social enterprises is to tackle social problems. And therefore, we are able to actually talk to corporates and say, by doing this, you will make this impact. We can measure that for you. And that's why we want to work with you corporates, because you enable us to tackle more of the problems that we are trying to do.
Thank you, Kate. So I'd like to speak to Latoya next, who is the CEO of Rising Stars Property Solutions. So Latoya, can you briefly introduce yourself and tell us about the business that you lead?
Yes, so I'm the founder for Rising Stars Property Solutions. We provide work experience training and employment opportunities to disadvantaged groups. And we do this by providing property services to the social housing and construction sector.
Fabulous. So you're working with a number of our corporate clients as well. Why are
Yes.
these corporate clients choosing to work with Rising Stars?
Even though they understand our social ethos, I think they choose to work with us because we're business first and foremost. And in order for us to get continuous work, we've got to act in that way. We've got our accreditations like any other business, and we've got to be competitive with our pricing as well. So we've gone on the aspect that we're partners and we're going to be like any other contractor. However, we do the other stuff afterwards. So this is what you get, a business, and then you get social value afterwards. So I think once it comes from the top and you sit and you speak with directors that push the social value through a company, once it gets to the bottom of the site managers and should I say project managers even so, they're not really aware of the social value strategy. So they're not really interested in a social enterprise bouncing through the door. They want to work with a person or a company that's going to get the job done. And we understand that and we get the job done. And they continue to send us work. It's not the directors sending you work, it's the site managers.
Yeah, there is a bigger question then as well around what we were talking about earlier, that how far the organisation understands the purpose of working with social enterprises, because some organisations have it quite embedded across the organisation. So there will be some people that know about social enterprise even at that level that you're talking about, but it's still a big job to make everyone aware that social enterprises are an option. But yeah, as you said, the most important thing is to prove that you are a valuable business to work with, rather than just because you're a social enterprise. Yeah, absolutely. And I'd be interested to know where you see your organisation being in the next 5 years, where you see it going, rather.
We would very much like to get into the commercial sector. So we see ourselves getting into the commercial sector and being introduced to all these other brilliant organisations. But we would also like our on-premise. We want to increase our turnover to the big 1 million. I think every small company wants to just get past that 1 million threshold. So we can see ourselves getting there. And once we do, as we grow, opportunities grow. So we're able to offer work experience opportunities. We're able to offer jobs to people you would never think will even have a chance of secure employment, and let them change their life around. I also see myself maybe managing it a bit more as a managing director as opposed to a CEO, can go back to being a bit more hands-on in the company as opposed to leading it from the outside. So I'll say that in the next 5 years.
What about where you'll be servicing? Have you got any plans to expand geographically?
Currently, we have to work all over the UK because we're in construction. And we tend to continue that. We don't want to go abroad, so we're going to stick with working all over the UK. We don't know where our next job's going to be, but we're able to fulfil that need, thankfully. And we've got a great team that can help us do that.
Super, thanks, Latoya.
You're most welcome.
So, lastly, we're going to speak to Cecilia from, well, I'll let you do your introduction, it's better. So if you'd like to briefly introduce yourself and your organisation.
Thanks, Nicola. Hello, everybody. I'm Cecilia. I'm the founder of From Babies with Love, and we help your HR colleagues solve a problem, which is retaining your working parents. That is a problem for them because there's a significant financial cost of replacing that talent group if they don't stay when they start their families. And also, I'm 99% sure that all your executive committees have improving gender balance on their to-do lists, and retaining your working parents is a key driver of achieving that. And the way that we solve that problem for your colleagues is through our parental leave gift service, quintessential baby items that spend is taking place on anyway right now, lost on miscellaneous credit cards and not strategically built into any programme. We transform that spend. And the way we do that is it's intrinsic in our social enterprise model. We donate 100% of our profits to orphan and abandoned children. And so your gift to your colleague when they take parental leave comes with the story of how your company is also helping an orphan child, which is where the connection and meaning, the employee engagement is really driving a contribution to retention. And I loved what Kelvin said, Kelvin at SAP, about his three criteria of sustainability, social value and innovation. As we tick them all, I'm pleased to say our products are made sustainably. We deliver social value through our contribution to the Sustainable Development Goals in multiple of those goals in how we care for orphan children. And we have innovated a service. As I mentioned, we've transformed spend. And it's a service that solves a commercial problem in the HR category for those colleagues, and a service that was not available on the marketplace before we created it.
That leads into my next question. I think you've touched upon it a little bit already, but to expand on that, you have Babies with Love and yourself have brought some innovative solutions to problems that businesses are seeing. Can you give us a couple of examples of what they are?
Yes, so I hope I just summarised that, but to talk about it in a little more detail, I expect everybody on this call has at some point bought a bunch of flowers for a colleague on parental leave, and it's probably been done by an EA or yourself or a team member, which is so well intended, but it's a missed opportunity. It's inconsistent across colleagues. You have someone over here that gets a bunch of flowers, someone over there gets something from the high street. The person in the other division gets nothing, and imagine how they feel. And that spend is just sporadic and ad hoc, and has had no strategic planning into the HR leaders program for working parents, which I am sure, again, everyone on this call, that there's investment in that talent management area at the moment. So alongside programs around, say, flexible working, emergency childcare, we've just created a very simple gesture that has big impact for the individual through how they feel about about their relationship with their employer at a wonderful and important time in their life, and so to their career. So impact for them as individuals, impact for a company's people values and communication, tangible communication of people values for all working parents, and of course tangible communication of its broader corporate values and the role it sees itself as having in the global communities that big companies serve. So it's connecting all of those things just by taking that ad hoc spend that was kind of happening randomly across all the executive assistants and turning it into a strategically planned spend.
And would you say there are any special considerations or processes that corporate buyers should be aware of or bear in mind when sourcing from social enterprises?
I think a really wonderful role that procurement leads in companies can have is to position themselves as people that empower budget holders in their peers in other categories and other divisions, and are introducers and innovators within organisations to share the knowledge of the social enterprises they learn about through programs such as BiSocial, because quite often those social enterprises are able to articulate their service as a solution to a problem that budget holder has, and articulate that innovation and value, social value and commercial value, in a way that will tick a problem off a to-do list of that budget holder. And it will empower the budget holder to feel so pleased with themselves that they've turned that spend into spend that not only does what they need it to do for whatever product or service that is, but also is contributing to social change. And that makes people feel good. As simple as that. So it's a really lovely thing, empowering thing, as I say. And I think the role of procurement leads in facilitating those conversations and helping make the introductions is a wonderful thing for procurement professionals to consider, with all the spend going across all businesses and all budget holders, and a wonderful role that the BiSocial Corporate Challenge has. I hope that's answered the question.
Yeah, that was a nice note to end on. Thank you, Cecilia, and thank you, Latoya and Kate as well. So what I would like to do is see if we've got any questions from the audience, move into the Q&A section. So if you haven't already submitted a question you'd like to, you can in the questions pane of the control panel. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can have a look at the control panel myself. The other panelists, Laura, Kelvin and Emily, if you'd like to resurface and pop back up for me, and I'll have a look at what questions have popped through for us. So let's have a look. If okay, try and expand that. Bear with me a second while I see how to pop this out. Okay, so we have one question. Okay, I think this could either be to Emily or to Kelvin or Laura. So when you're first looking at buying from social enterprises, you're looking to onboard them, is there a particular area of focus that you would suggest? Maybe it's like a category of spend, maybe it's yeah, I mean, how did you first go about getting your first social enterprises involved? I mean, Emily, Laura and Kelvin, you could all answer that, so we could start with Emily.
I just turned off.
I think I
turned my volume off rather than turning my camera on. Yeah. Anyway, here we are. So where did we first start? So before we joined the Biosocial Corporate Challenge, we had already been working with some social enterprises, and we'd been working with them in particular categories. So waste was a good example. So we tried to build on categories that we had been already working with social enterprises in as a first step. The second step, if I'm honest with you, we kind of work with Social Enterprise UK because we looked through our total supply chain spend and saw what could be some of the quick wins and some of the lower hanging fruit or areas that we thought we could get over the line a bit quicker. So if I'm honest with you, things like stationery were quite a quick win for us because it was managed centrally rather than sitting down within the business units, and any other categories that sat across our organisation as opposed to being very specific were the ones that we try to focus on first. I'm just trying to remember, to be honest with you, because it was a few years ago, but I think that's the sort of approach that we went for first. And then it kind of catalyzes, because then the more you talk to the procurement team about social enterprise, then you'll find different social enterprises popping up that you didn't necessarily know that were there, and other parts that you need to push a little bit further to say, come on, have a little think about this, you know, get on board. So a multi-pronged attack, that sounds a bit aggressive, doesn't it? But you know, we're trying to get some enthusiasm for this, so a multi-pronged approach is probably a bit better.
Multi-pronged battle plan. Go on, Kelvin.
We look for the quick wins. We wanted to get our employees engaged very quickly, so after speaking to Andy, he advised us that food and beverages would be an ideal opportunity to start. There was a number of social enterprises in that area. We worked with Laura, and I think we got something like 14 social enterprises up and running in the first 6 months. And once you get those social enterprises on board and the employees are engaged, then other social enterprises come on board. But also, you know, talking to social enterprises, they talk to each other. I met Cecilia through talking to Wild Hearts at an event. I'd never met her before. So you do get to meet other social enterprises through the social enterprises.
Laura, do you have anything else you'd like to add?
I think there may even be some social enterprise already in your supply chain that you're not even aware of. So when I first started working with Social Enterprise UK, we did a bit of a benchmark on our current spend, and we were quite surprised that there was some there. So that's always a good step, to just have a look at your supply chain. And then we set a target to try and have at least one social enterprise per category. And in some of our food categories, there's absolutely an abundance of different social enterprises that we could work with. Others, we're kind of almost waiting for some social enterprises to appear on the market. So I think it really depends on kind of what you're buying and what your clients are interested in, if relevant.
Thank you. And another question to the corporate kind of representation on this call is the Buy Social Corporate Challenge Initiative, social procurement, a part of your wider supplier diversity agenda? It's a part of, in a lot of cases, isn't it? Supplier diversity coming together. But Emily, if you want to pick up on that as well, or anybody jump in.
Yeah, absolutely.
We call it procurement purpose within SAP, and it covers those three areas I mentioned earlier on. So social enterprise is new to SAP in terms of implementation, but it has been around there. So we look at social enterprise, supply diversity, and sustainability. It's part of the wider remit that we've got within procurement.
Yeah, I'd say likewise. I mean, we can get very hung up on terminology, can't we? Sustainability, social value. You know, ultimately, what is it that we're trying to achieve, and what's the impact we're trying to achieve? And really thinking about, you know, the people, the beneficiaries, you know, the individuals that are either struggling or got barriers to employment, or on the environmental side, whether it's the carbon impact or looking at, you know, the materials that we're using, trying to reduce waste, etc. So yeah, I don't like to get too hung up on terminology. Did you ever watch that what was the BBC spoof, you know, and they're like, I'm head of inclusion, I'm head of legacy, I'm head of sustainability, and it all gets a bit confusing. But if we focus on the impact and the difference it's making, that's kind of where we're trying to focus.
I'm trying to remember the name of that program now. I know what you're talking about.
2020, BBC 2020 was it? There was two. I forget what they were.
Yeah,
I
know what you're yeah. A question for the social enterprises as well. What challenges have you faced getting into being a supplier for corporates? Because it's quite a different market to break into for a lot of social enterprises, and the processes of onboarding can be quite strenuous in cases. But I'd be interested to hear what challenges you've faced, and we can hear from everybody, but maybe start with Kate and hear what your experience has been.
Yes, I think our experience is we deal mainly in construction, and one of our problems is the sheer size of documentation that people want us to fill out. You know, we have gigabytes of information sent to us, and then we have to go through it with a fine-tooth comb to find the bit that applies to us. And I think then there's also the balancing of risk. So if you're looking, I mean, we're long established. I said we've been here 100 years, but some of the newer social enterprises and some of the newer SMEs, you know, they'll be trying to provide 3 years of accounts. They won't have 3 years of accounts. You know, they won't necessarily have all the stuff, but it's a balance of risk. And I think it's very easy for large corporates to just send out everything and just then we sent it to them and they didn't fill it in, or they filled it in incorrectly. Well, if you're a startup social enterprise or a startup SME, you may not have the space, the bandwidth, or even the people to fill out some of these massive tender documents and the pricing sheets that people send out to you. And I think it's the corporates need to have a look at breaking down those barriers of what is stopping social enterprises actually doing business with them. So, I mean, I always use the quotes, and I'm sorry about this, Cecilia, but you've obviously solved the problem, is one of my old quotes used to be, you know, it was far easier for somebody to order a bunch of from some anonymous company than to send their EA to the florist on the corner, because the procurement process meant that you had to, you know, have them as a supplier, you had to have them vetted, they had to be risk assessed, you know, you had to know all of these things. Well, in actual fact, all you wanted was a bunch of flowers from somebody who was a small business or a social business or a community business. So I think those are, for us, some of the barriers, is what is the risk and how do corporates have risk around it.
Thank you.
Nicola,
yeah, and then
Nicola,
yeah,
it's Kelvin. I know that you were asking the social enterprises, but can I add something on what Kate
from your
said?
side, absolutely, yeah.
You know, Kate, we recognise this. I mean, I've been working with one social enterprise now for nearly a year, and we've recognised that they've got several contracts that they need to enter into to work with us. It's a challenge for us within the organisation because these relate to legal matters such as data protection, but we know there's a problem there, and one of the actions that we've got to take as procurement is to try and make it easier. So what you've said, fully agree with, and from an SAP perspective, we are looking at it.
Thank you.
Apart from being able to say, Cecilia, that you have addressed that issue of needing to buy from a local florist, are there any other, so that was a great way to be like, well, if anyone has that specific problem, but have you got any other things that you would say have been challenging on your journey with working with corporates, or maybe not even challenging, maybe there's some positives as well? I mean, not that it's all negative, but
Yeah, there are tons of positives. I could take the whole rest of the meeting talking about them. But a challenge that we encountered when we first started out with our services for HR directors was that we were being asked to serve globally. Lots of our clients are global firms, and we do serve globally apart from sanctioned countries. And there are some cultural differences that we needed to take into account. And just take the time to build our service to do that. We had to get ourselves set up with multi-currencies so that we were, we invoiced in multiple currencies depending on the location of the client. So there was just a step change for us at that point in just our operational sophistication, all of which we overcame. It was just, work we needed to do, but absolutely, as you say, it is a positive because the value of that contract when we serve globally is greater, and the resulting employee engagement impact is for colleagues worldwide, and the social impact is also, of course, greater. So that was just our experience of getting used to and ensuring we were ready to serve globally for our clients.
Thanks. And Latoya, do you have anything else you'd like to add?
No, not at the moment. I'm quite happy with
what's been said.
Yeah, with what's been said. Apart from the supply chain documents being like so big, and we've got one at the moment. We've just come out of construction. We're trying to get into the commercial sector, so this is a new one for us, and we've never seen nothing like it in our whole lives. It is monstrous. I'm telling you, never seen nothing like it. There's even squashy. I thought we had cracked it, but we clearly haven't. I thought, we're dabbing at these 6 months takes normally we give ourselves to get onto a supply chain from when you speak to a construction company right to the end. It's normally about 6 months because it's the passing, the knocking. I say another barrier is who to speak with. Who's the actual person that holds that authorization card? That's a massive, massive barrier. We've all covered it all, but then, like you say, you can go globally, like Cecilia said. Working with Angie, for instance, we've been to Peterborough, and it's not globally, but it's big for us because we're just a little Warsaw here in the West Midlands. But we go to Peterborough, we've been to Wellingborough, like literally Scarborough, you name it, and they take you. You're good, and they take you globally. So you've got the beauty of that, and you can touch so many different lives because these are all communities, and there's decoration everywhere. So that's the beauty about it. But it would be nice to get through some of these loops, yeah.
I think it's important for the audience to kind of contemplate that in terms of how the processes that they have may prohibit social enterprises from becoming part of the supply chain. It's a really important part. And like Emily, Kelvin and Laura have talked about, there's so much to building a social procurement strategy. That's a part of it, building awareness around the organisation so that, lots of people know that social enterprise is an option and a valuable option as businesses, not just because of the social impact. So there's so many different dynamics and layers to this that make it successful. And I will refer back to the latest impact report. Really does go into a bit of that detail about some of the what's to come next and what value businesses are seeing from being a part of the challenge. So thank you all for speaking with us today and joining us in the webinar. I'm going to start sharing my screen again just to jump back to the final slide. And Andy, if you'd like to resurface, I can see your bookshelf. He's back.
Hopefully you can see me and you can hear me. Yep.
Am I sharing my screen? Oh no. Somebody sounds like there's a forklift like driver behind them. I think that might be you, Latoya. If you want to put yourself on mute.
Coming back onto the yard.
Yeah,
Okay.
if you want to mute yourselves, but don't switch your cameras off because it's still good to see you all. I just wanted to say also a really big thank you to Cecilia, Kate, Latoya, Emily, Laura, Kelvin. It's been fantastic to have you sharing your perspectives on this. We said that we were going to be looking at the why, what and how of social procurement today, and I think on the why there have been some really clear themes coming through: innovation, sustainability, diversity. Social value is the theme that's come up many times, and it's great to see that there's just this wider definition of value that more and more businesses are embracing. In terms of the what, I think you've come across some great examples, 3 fantastic examples of social enterprises here, and also a timely reminder that they are competitive on cost and quality, and they give you a lot more bang for your buck. And in terms of the how do we actually do this? The key thing I think that I've heard a lot from today is collaboration. I heard Emily saying it's fantastic to be able to work with these other Bi-Social Corporate Challenge partners and learn great learning opportunities there. So the message from us really is, there's no need to reinvent the wheel. By working with other businesses on the Bi-Social Corporate Challenge, for example, there's so much more that we can achieve together. We would like more businesses to get involved. So if you do want to find out more, if you want to have a look at our recent impact report, if you want to discuss with myself, with Nicola, with the rest of the team, how we might be able to support your business, then please do drop us a line, give us a call, and connect with us, and we'd love to have a conversation. But I think we're just about out of time. Thank you everyone for joining us as well, and look forward to continuing the conversation. Have a great afternoon.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.